Okay, hello, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be taking you guys through one of my personal favourite games from the 19th century. Now, any of you familiar with my channel will know that basically all of my favourite games are from the 19th century. I mean, you can literally see on the left of the screen there the face of Paul Morphy, Adolf Anderssen, and in the middle, Louis Charles Mahe de la Bourdonnais, pronounced exquisitely. For the sake of general brevity, we're going to be referring to him as La Bourdonnais. He played with the black pieces against Alexander McDonnell, who he played many games with the white pieces. In the year 1834, if you were a world-beating chess player, you didn't really have much competition, and so you kind of just had to play the same few people. This was really about 20 years before Morphy came into the scene, so La Bourdonnais was just out here absolutely slaying people. He is one of my favorite players of all time, and this game will show you why. Now, sometimes the beauty in games, like one I covered before of Alexei Shirov playing a double Muzio gambit, sometimes the beauty occurs, you know, in the opening through some brilliant preparation, in the middle game through a beautiful tactic, but in this game, it gets progressively more beautiful until literally the last position, which is one of the most aesthetic, unbelievable, and just crazy looking positions ever in a game of chess. I'm sure you will agree. So without further ado, let's go through the game. McDonnell opened with e4 and La Bourdonnais played a Sicilian, the most aggressive way basically at a high level to play against e4. Even in 1834, he was clearly aware of this. Knight f3, knight c6, like we're in mainline Sicilian theory, d4, okay. It is awesome to see mainline theory being played 200 years ago. In the League Chess database, there have been 72,000 master games in this position. Takes, of course, best move. Knight takes, best move. Very classical stuff. Open Sicilian defense. What would you expect from the goats of the era? Here's where La Bourdonnais plays something that slightly diverts from mainline theory. I mean, this is still absolutely theory what he plays. It's just not preferred so much these days. I mean, in general, the move knight f6 is played 58% of the time here. And then after that, g6 played 16% of the time. But La Bourdonnais opts for the third most popular move, e5. Now, in the game, McDonnell takes this knight, which we will explain why that's probably not the best idea. The reason that this is maybe a little less popular, although again still played prevalently, is because 97% of the time masters will go knight b5. You kind of then have to go d6. This is the Löwenthal variation, by the way. You kind of then have to go d6 to stop nasty knight d6 check ideas. This is the Kalashnikov variation, and for sure this opening is playable for black. However, after like knight c3, this is kind of a typical line actually. A6, knight a3, b5 going to fork those knights. The knight can jump into d5. Given that you started with the Sicilian, you've traded off that c pawn. Playing the move e5 does leave a hole here on d5. I mean, there is now no pawn ever that will defend this square. That is a really crucial concept to understand if you want to be getting better at chess. And so every time you push a pawn, you kind of leave these holes behind, and it is quite a large concession to make to give up that d5 square completely and utterly. However, again, there have been like 2,000 master games in this line. This is definitely playable. Instead of knight b5 though, as you can see, McDonnell plays knight takes c6. Now, this move is played 50 times in the Masters database out of 8,000. Clearly not the most popular move, because take with the b pawn, and all of a sudden you had a c pawn which you've already successfully traded off for one of white's center pawns. So you know, you traded a sort of center flank pawn for a center pawn. It's kind of one of the main ideas of the Sicilian, if not the fundamental idea of the Sicilian. But now, after this trade, you've now regained that flank pawn to then support the push, such that if takes, black has 2 pawns in the center, white has no pawns in the center, and arguably letting black dominate the center like that is probably not exactly what you want to do if you want to press for an advantage with white. Here McDonnell goes for bishop c4, basically saying, listen, I don't really want you to play d5. That is not ideal. I mean, he clearly knows this. But of course, La Bourdonnais develops the knight, and he's saying, well, you know, I am going to play d5. You've just taken my knight here. What are you doing? McDonnell says, well, what am I doing? I'm pinning that knight. You're not playing d5 now. He just unpins. McDonnell goes, okay, I mean, fair enough, you've got a point. I probably don't want to immediately give up my bishop pair, and also this pawn's hanging. F3 doesn't look that pleasant because it weakens my king side, so I'm just going to play queen e2 here to, of course, defend that pawn, and also lift the queen. I mean, you can also get the rook in quickly. It's not a bad move. However, here, we see d5, and all of a sudden, basically everything in black's position makes sense. I mean, we are pushing for the center, getting nice and open and expansive with tempo on this bishop. Already the engine gives something like minus 0.6, as you can see up here. It's just a slight advantage for black, but it's definitely a practical advantage. Now, the best continuation for white is actually takes bishop b3. I mean, then after that, black can just castle. Black's got a great position, and if they end up grabbing here, there's going to be huge problems with the lack of development and the open e-file. Instead, McDonnell takes the knight on f6. Now, why has he done this? Because after recaptures, the bishop's going to move back to b3, and the point is that after the bishop moves, you don't want this pawn to hang to the knight, so you kind of had to trade it off. Because if McDonnell had just gone bishop b3 straight away, then the knight could just grab the pawn. I mean, okay, you could maybe trade this off. It's a centralized knight. It's a massive center. You know, down a pawn in this kind of position, basically everything black has is better than everything white has. So that is why he trades the knights off. Bishop b3 here, castles. Okay, things are looking good. We've got a bishop pair here as La Bourdonnais. I mean, if there's anything that really epitomizes 19th century romantic chess, it's a bishop pair. Attacking, beautiful, let's go, lovely stuff. We love to see it. You can see the makings of a beautiful game here already. After La Bourdonnais castles, McDonnell replies with castles, and then, in my opinion, we see one of the best moves of the game, one of the most high-level moves of the game that kind of shows the most understanding, even 200 years ago. We see La Bourdonnais play a5. Now, some of you might be thinking, okay, what, like just a4, he's going to try and trap the bishop. Like, it's almost a one-move threat. How is that a high-level move? Well, it doesn't just threaten to trap the bishop. If you go a4, for instance, saying, look, okay, my bishop, it's not going to get trapped, you can't push, I can drop the bishop back here, life's good. Then a5 has also opened up the possibility of bishop a6, slicing a beautiful, beautiful diagonal along here, exploiting that queen on e2 and the rook on f1, supported by the rook, which couldn't have happened while the pawn was on a7 in the way of that rook. And you might be thinking, okay, well, I mean, it's just, he's noticed a threat of a little skewer. But it's not just that. Because in this position, white could play c4. White doesn't want to lose their queen or their rook, so they can play c4 here. And then here, La Bourdonnais would have played, I mean, this is a bit of conjecture, I haven't spoken to the guy, but presumably he calculated this, he would have played d4. Now the point of this is that first of all, this is now a protected passed pawn. He's induced the push of c4, allowing his d-pawn to become passed. Also, he's completely killed this bishop. What is it looking at? You still can't push this because of the pressure along here. Now instead of d4 straight away, there is also the option to go rook b8 or queen b6 and put pressure on that bishop. But the point is here that everything's kind of just immobile. The pawn's passed. Life's looking good, especially along that open b file. I mean, let's say you play rook here, rook b8, if bishop a2, all of a sudden a bunch of pressure here. Regardless of the exact follow-up, a5 is actually the top engine move, and very impressive to have found that 200 years ago, in my opinion. McDonnell replies by taking, because now, of course, if a4, I mean, the bishop can just go here, it's not trapped. Oh no, my whole big center's fallen apart. What's happened? Also, there's no threat of bishop a6 anymore, because the bishop's on this diagonal. So, of course, after McDonnell takes, we see recaptures, and we do see, eventually, the situation that I discussed at the start, where there are no central pawns for white, 2 central pawns for black, and McDonnell goes for rook to d1. Bourdonnais says, okay, well, I mean, we got some pawns in the center. Let's get pushing them. I mean, let's make them support each other. Let's also open up some nice light squares for my light square bishop. And here, McDonnell makes a fairly drastic mistake. Now, you can kind of forgive him for this because the ideas are vaguely intuitive, but this is just quite a bad move. He plays the move c4. Now, some of you might be thinking, why the hell has he done that? Well, at that point, en passant had been introduced into the game, which is crazy that I have to clarify that, but this was a rule. So, of course, the option to take is there, but obviously the pin's here. So, if you put yourself in McDonnell's shoes, he kind of thought, okay, well, if taking's not an option, how about I get a little pass pawn of my own, and we start to push this. Also, the fact that my bishop needs a little place to retreat to. Maybe we can get on this diagonal because it's kind of just dead over on b3. I can vaguely understand why he played this move. However, it is not a good move because queen b6, all of a sudden, we unpin. We don't want to take this. No, because not only have you got yourself a passed pawn, I've got myself a passed pawn. And when I tell you that this passed pawn, I don't want to ruin the rest of the game for those of you who haven't seen this. Maybe some of you are familiar with this game, but you want to see a refresher, whatever. You know what I'm talking about when I say this passed pawn. Okay, the bishop drops back to c2. I mean, this makes sense. You've played c4. Play bishop c2. Bishop e7 here. Get on this beautiful, open, long, fianchetto diagonal. Also not allowing this bishop to come here and challenge the rook, unchallenged at least. Knight d2. McDonnell needs to develop his knight. I mean, it can't move to c3. That's part of the reason that the pawn being on d4 is such a good idea. Here, by the way, you really don't want to take this pawn. And it's not because of rook to b1, because, oh, look, there's a big problem here, because we can just take this. And then after rook takes here, I mean, we've just won a pawn. The queen's really infiltrating. This is all very, very fragile. Maybe we can even start pushing this, getting the rooks involved. This is winning for black. But if you take this pawn here, then there is a very nasty Zwischenzug, a between move, as the Germans say, with queen d3. And as literally everyone else in the world says, Zwischenzug is an established chess term. But queen d3 threatens mate in 1, defends the bishop, and now, after you do something about that, I mean, let's say g6, now this is a problem. So you don't want to grab that pawn. What do you want to do? La Bourdonnais wants to put his rook on e8. Not his rook from the f-file, mind you. I mean, this rook literally now cannot move. Why not put this rook here? I'm going to leave it at you'll see as the explanation for that. Knight e4, we see bishop d8 now. What on earth is bishop d8? What a freaky looking move, moving the bishop to the back rank. I mean, why is this a good idea? Ooh, I'm seeing a little something. Maybe why he's left his rook here. He moves the bishop out the way, and pawns are going to be starting to be pushed. Forks are going to be all over the place. Passed pawns should be pushed. And this bishop d8 is a lovely way to prepare for that. I mean, bishops are long-range pieces. Why not make the most of that by having them nice and far away from the action? But they are speedy pieces. They can get there when they need to. They can do very, very speedy things. I really like bishop d8. I think there's something quite artistic about it. Anyway, c5 here. Okay, because McDonnell's thinking, well, I mean, you've got your passed pawn, but it's not going anywhere. I mean, I'm controlling that square. I got my passed pawn. I want to support that. I want to attack your queen. It's with tempo. Queen c6. Calm. Slides under it. Now, McDonnell decides to play knight back to d2, Hangs mate in 1 in the game, and I'm joking, he does not. He of course defends his knight with the move f3. It's not like he needed to defend that knight in terms of it wasn't already protected enough, but he's kind of building up against this queen bishop battery towards the checkmate on g2 anyway. And here we see just a calm little bishop e7. I mean, he's not worried about lashing out yet. McDonnell's overextended this pawn. He's gone for his own passed pawn, he's supported it, but everything's kind of just getting a little bit brittle, a little bit, you know, things are holding on to each other, but if one part moves, the whole thing falls apart. He puts pressure on that c5 pawn. Rook ac1. Okay, well, let's try and support that pawn. Let's get the rook behind the passed pawn. That makes sense. Now f5. And he left his rook here to be able to push these pawns justifiably, playing rook ae8 instead of rook fe8 to drop the bishop back to push the pawn. I mean, it's just awesome to see that 200 years ago, people were this good at chess. Having weakened the diagonal, though, McDonnell now plays queen at c4 check. King h8, calm, easy. Bishop a4 now, hitting the queen. Oh my word, I mean, you know, this is very, very, very much supported. We can't go and take this pawn, and you're now also supporting the square in front about 1 billion times. Are we sure that Bourdonnais not in trouble? Well, queen h6. He slides across. He's not interested in what's going on over here. He's interested in the weaknesses that he's induced from this king. Look at this diagonal. Bishop takes e8. Bishop takes e8. Not only did the move bishop a4 hit the queen, it was a skewer. The queen had to move. He's lost a rook. How is Le Bourdonnais the one we're focusing on here? I mean, he's just blundered a rook. No, he takes the knight now. He doesn't want that rook. He would much rather these pawns start moving forward up the board. Now, if you take here, you really activate this rook. Also, this bishop can get active. The queen can get active. You're getting sliced apart. Also, this bishop is hanging. And keep in mind the whole idea of playing c4 and trying to play c5. McDonnell's thinking, right, yeah, let's go. c6. Tempo on the bishop. Why would I not? He takes the pawn. Oh my word. Because if you think you are surviving taking this bishop, I mean, you look, it's 1 square away from promotion. If you think you are surviving queen e3, king here, and this pawn tearing that king open, check here, rook takes here, king here, check here, and mate, for instance, is one of the lines. La Bourdonnais brazenly decides to just hang his bishop because he knows it's actually forced mate in 6 with queen e3. McDonnell, I mean, this guy is no slouch. He is quite literally basically the next best player in the world. Instead plays, as you can see, rook c2, not taking the bishop. Okay, he's trying to defend the stuff that's going on here. Queen e3 anyway. Queen e3 check. King h1. The bishop goes back to c8. He's not in a hurry to recapture this. He doesn't want to allow this to promote. No. Just chilling with the bishops on the back rank. McDonnell goes bishop d7. I mean, he wants to save his bishop. He's trying to break this open. He's trying to promote this pawn. This king's on the back rank. This pawn is so close to promotion. I mean, if we see takes, what on earth are you doing about c8? In this position, not caring for even a second about this passed pawn, La Bourdonnais is worried about his own. He plays f2. He plays pawn to f2. And if we take a second, that very thing from the start of the game we were talking about black having a huge center, there are 3 connected passed pawns in the center. This is a march that will not be stopped. Rook f1, McDonnell gets onto the pawn. Okay, he doesn't want to see the promotion immediately. There was a threat potentially of queen e1. This king's clearly very weak. This seems like a great move. I mean, okay. d3, and my pawns are moving. The rook goes to c3. Okay, yeah, we don't want to see this pushed again because then the queen's going to hang. Let's pin that up. Nice. We don't want to go into the back rank either because then, you know, it could be pushed again. There's no way he could get 2 passed pawns on the second rank, right? But now takes. Why is he taking here? Because takes, and he just goes e4. The pawn's being pushed. Queen to c8. Now, of course, you don't want to take here because then you're going to lose the game. I mean, you would lose the game to rook takes as well as promotion after bishop f8 takes. That is checkmate. But La Bourdonnais not scared. He has 3 passed pawns. You've got a measly 1. You think I won't just play bishop d8? The bishop returns to that d8 square. And what are you actually doing now? You don't have anything that can dislodge this bishop. And I know some of you might be thinking, well, oh no, look, queen takes, and rook here. And if rook takes, then you promote and win the game. Yeah, but queen b6. We just get under this. And if you think that you're going to win this endgame, you are sorely mistaken. As white, that is. I mean, you're definitely going to win that as black. So bishop d8, instead of taking, obviously, we see queen c4. I mean, the queen just returns. La Bourdonnais has completely neutralized the threat here. This is now not promoting. And the investment that you made into this 1 passed pawn, I mean, where's it gone? And all that time, queen e1. Queen e1. Because if you take, then you can take here and promote with checkmate. Of course, it's not actually that hard to see. It's beautiful. It's not that hard to see, though. McDonnell goes, okay, we're just going to play rook c1. Because, I mean, if you take here now, I take here. I've got a queen. I might promote this pawn. I mean, okay. But remember when he played rook c3 and I said, listen, you don't want to go back with the rook because then you can allow d2 with tempo. What is going on? La Bourdonnais has 2 passed pawns supporting his queen, attacking the rook. The queen goes here. Why does the queen go here? Because, oh, free rook, let's go. That is checkmate. The queen attacks the rook. Now, La Bourdonnais, being one of the greatest players from the romantic era of chess, surprisingly doesn't blunder that, and instead, just rook g8. I mean, you make a one-move threat, I'm going to make a one-move response. It is just, I am so secure here with my king. Nothing is getting to the back rank. This bishop completely annihilates any hope you have of promoting this pawn, and you've got more than a few problems here. The rook goes to d1. First of all, how is this a real game? I'm kind of half convinced someone just made this up. The rook goes to d1. How? Just look at the state of this. I can't even believe it. The problem is you can never take this queen. Because if you do, I take and make a new queen. And if you take again, I take and make a new queen and it's going to be checkmate. Or the queen goes back here, we trade the queens off, king here, and I have a rook and a bishop for just nothing. And here we see the reason this is my favorite game, or one of my favorite games from the 19th century, e3. I mean, of course it had to be. The queen goes back. Takes. e2. And McDonnell resigns. What on earth is this position? There are 3 pawns about to promote. Down 5 points of material, he decides to sacrifice his queen for this rook, play e2, and, I mean, what are you doing? Oh, come on. Need I even explain why this is winning? If you move your rook, I mean, in the position here, right? I mean, okay, like, yeah, this is all nice and cool, but if this pawn wasn't here, how are you ever actually shifting either of these rooks? And if you ever take, then the rook takes, it holds the queening square, it threatens this, the queen picks it all up, but that massive center that we saw. Now, this is one of those positions where everything wins. You could have also probably played e2. The best move, which would have just been really funny. However, McDonnell did play the most accurate move. It is mate in 7 rather than mate in 11 or something like that. Queen takes, rook and if you don't play rook takes and you play like rook here, then we're either taking there, we're promoting like this. I mean, if you go rook here, we can take, promote, whatever. And so after the queen sack, he accepts and e2. And what are you going to do? Pick up a pawn? Great, checkmate. Where are you moving this rook? Like, tell me where you are moving this rook. You can't even go here. You can't even go there because I take this and then promote with mate again. Hopefully you'll agree that this is one of the most aesthetic finishing positions ever. What a beautiful and disgusting attack, showing the power of some pawns in the center, which, may I remind you, was the whole thing we talked about in terms of why this was an inaccuracy from McDonnell to take the knight here. I mean, knight b5 is played 97% of the time at master level. There's a reason for that. If you take here, there's big pawns in the center. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get 3 connected passed pawns on f2, e2, and d2 in the endgame. You probably, that's maybe a bit of a stretch. But what I think is wonderful and what I think is really formative in terms of chess learning and understanding is to notice these slight nuances of openings and then see games where they manifest in the most. I mean, this game is just, it's a joke how well this manifests. I mean, this wasn't a perfect game from either player, I must say. Le Bourdonnais did not play 100% accurately. I would much rather play chess like this than play 100% accurately. Now, that's why I'll never be Magnus Carlsen, but I'll also never be Louis-Charles Mahe de la Bourdonnais. Thank you very, very, very much for watching. If you enjoyed and you want to support the channel, then I am wearing this t-shirt right here, E4, C5. Back in Black, Sicilian, little AC/DC reference, pretty sick. Now, where did I get this t-shirt from? I got it from badbishopclothing.com. There's a link in the description to go check out the stuff if you're vaguely interested. I mean, I think this is really cool. If you use code WTC, you will get 10% off at checkout. I'm sorry for the shameless plug to end this video, but I'm an affiliate of the Bad Bishop Clothing Company, so which is really awesome, by the way. Very happy about that. Got some free clothes. Let's go. But also, any purchases that you make, I get a 10% commission of, which is really cool, obviously, helping support the channel. There's a video of me modeling it superbly in the gym earlier today with my brother. And if you're interested, they got some really cool designs. I'd appreciate you guys checking it out. The link is in the description, WC code at checkout, etc. But thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this game. Hopefully you enjoyed this style of video. I haven't done one of these in a while where I go and cover a master game in depth. If you want to see more of La Bourdonnais' games, then of course, let me know in the comments. Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that to support the channel. I'll be back with another video soon. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.